This is a gel polish removal and reapplication pedicure. This is my preferred setup. I love a saddle seat for this that can go low. I use a one-time use liner. I like the On Guard soap from doTERRA and or the Citrus Bloom is my favorite. My brother-in-law built me this podium so that I could have a stopping point for this footrest, and it sits me upright. Their foot rests more in my face where I need it. I like to have all my tools laid out and a stack of towels. I like 6 or 7. I just do. I think inviting a client to a soggy footrest is rude. I know I'm doing a gel polish removal, so I've brought over my drill, and I know we're doing chrome and some French, so that little tote is my art supplies I'm going to need. I like to let them soak for 5 minutes. I do get them soaking pretty quickly while I gather up whatever else I may need or get them some water, what have you. For sake of angle, recording, and time, we're going with just the left foot, but you can assume we're always rinsing and repeating. So I'm inviting their foot out of the water. I do typically start with the right foot, but again, the angle of just the left one and time and what have you, we're just going to focus on the left foot. And you can assume we're rinsing and repeating this process. So I love my blue squares, my shop towels cut into squares, as you know, with acetone. That's what we're using to cleanse and dehydrate. Keep in mind that I don't always like to do a wet pedicure when I'm dealing with gel. If your client is showing any signs of dehydration, discoloration in their nail plate, talk them into a dry pedicure with steam, perhaps, and or hot towels, and we'll go over that process. I love these cone-shaped ceramic bits in a medium grit with that blue band. You guys always ask me what number I'm at. This guy doesn't really tell me. It's a sound, it's a feel for me. I know what it should feel like. If it's skipping, it's too low. Always keep in mind that the faster your bit is going, the less pressure you have to use. So I'm not telling you to sound like a lawnmower while you're removing this gel polish, but don't be skipping and don't have it at such a low speed that you're digging in. That's where the danger happens. It should be a light pressure and you should be going fast enough that it can remove it as close to like butter as you can. You'll notice I am pulling the proximal nail folds away from my e-file bit at all times. I'm in control of that toe and that foot. I want you all to consider your anchoring point in whatever you're doing. Anchor yourself. You'll notice where my pinky is. I'll either have it on the side of my other hand, sometimes it's on the footrest, sometimes it's on their pinky or their toe like it is here. Find your anchor before you go in with whatever motion or whatever tool you're doing. Again, this is true whether you're clipping a toenail or you're doing fine line nail art. Find your anchor. Also, I encourage you to start considering your rhythm of how you remove, whether it's top coat or all your gel polish. Consider your motions. If the nail plate had a grid on it, how are you going about removing the gel polish? What's your rhythm? What's your pattern? Check in with your client, whether it's too hot, if the pressure's okay. You'll notice here I'll even use my thumb to push away the toe tip away from the free edge to make sure I'm not filing their skin ever. It was a French before, so that white's always a little bit thicker on the free edge, so I want to make sure I get it off of there. I'm going to be using a dry brush. Make sure to always go from cuticle to free edge. Just want to get all those debris out of there. You might want to use a dry towel to help that along as well, so you don't have to be too aggressive with those plastic bristles. Remember to feel confident in moving your client's foot around. Move it to where you need it so that you can make these cuts safely. As my students know, I love acrylic nippers to cut toenails. There's not many toenail or fingernail clippers that fit every toenail and fingernail. They don't really make sense to me. I can be far more controlled with these. I like to work from corner to center ideally, but some toenails are placatured, they dig in. I am confident to cut those little hooks out as long as they're not digging into the skin, causing things that are out of our scope of practice, which is inflamed skin, pus, it's red, it's mad, it's sore. If someone trims their toenails on a regular basis that has a placatured or even an ingrown, if you maintain it before it's digging in and cutting in on the skin, that is in our scope of practice. We can carefully remove those corners. Many people would argue that it needs to be long and square. I respectfully disagree. Many a toenail needs to be rounded out and maintained properly so that it doesn't dig into the other sides of the other toenails or into that its own self as it's growing out. Make sure you're anchored. Again, in this place, it seems kind of my knuckle anchors me. Just make sure you're going in confidently. Don't go in with shaky hands. That's going to stress the client out. They're going to start engaging their foot and getting in the way. Go in confidently. As I've told you guys, I tend to focus on the middle of the blade out to the free edge of the blade, if you will, the very tip of the blade. I like to be able to see the very tip of the blade on the other end of a nail when I'm going in for a corner. If not, you might need to readjust your angle. In some instances, if I need to cut in a little bit more, but I need a little more flexibility, I might put some cuticle oil on them after this step, even after I've sort of shaped it. I'll put some cuticle oil where I still need to cut a little bit and let them soak again. And then when it comes out, that toenail sometimes is just a little more pliable so that I can cut it without it hurting the client. So I know that later I'm going to be prepping this whole nail plate for gel. I'm not going to spend much time on the shaping or even smoothing out of the nail plate at this point like we would with a natural pedicure. I'm just roughly doing a shape, um, 4 or 5 motions at the most. And again, remember corner to center, even though she does have a little thin layer of a base coat on here. I love V Beauty Pure's base coat for gel pedicures. It's thin, it's controllable, but again, if I know they're doing gel again, I can kind of leave behind a thin layer, almost like it's the most delicate gel overlay. Not everyone's a good candidate for that. I'm a big proponent for just having natural nail polish on toenails. I think that is the best. Gel polish, no matter how careful we are to dehydrate the nail plate before application, it's always just going to trap a little bit more moisture in that nail plate. And over a long period of time, that can be really unhealthy. So again, if that nail is showing any kinds of discoloration, those white patches, it's getting just that yellowy soft feel, not a good candidate for gel. Maybe not even for polish. They might just need to buff them out and let that nail get healthy again. I love this curette for getting out the corners. And what I mean by that is I will run that curette along a corner of a nail and see where it catches. And that tells on me if I've smoothed out the sides of the nail that have a tendency to dig into the toe, into the bed. Um, you can use your orange wood stick for this. I would recommend filing it at an angle and thin like I've shown you all so that it can get under there comfortably. You don't want to go in there with a just blunt, non-tapered orange wood stick. That's too thick an item to put in such a tight fit there in those corners and under the free edge of a toenail. Make sure you're going corner to center, and when you're cleaning out the debris along the proximal nail folds, I like you to start down by the lanula, down by the matrix, very light pressure. We're going to go up one side of the fold, wipe away that debris, repeat that motion, go down by the lanula, and if you started with the right, go to the left of it. Light pressure, we're just getting out that dead skin, build up the cuticle softener we put on before. And then under the free edge, it should always be corner to center, corner to center. If you skip a beat, they're going to feel it. There's so many nerve endings on that little toe. They are absolutely going to know and feel that you didn't clean out one of those corners. Take care with it. Check in with them. If their toenails are, if their toes are flexing or they're flinching, ask them, is it painful or is it a tickle? Again, the feet are very sensitive, so this is vulnerable for them. Go in with the light pressure, but be able to be thorough. I always like to have a pinch on the individual toe I'm working on. Again, whether it looks like it or not, I'm either using my fingers to pull away the proximal nail folds, or I'm using my thumb to pull away the tip of the toe so that I am targeted in on the intention that I'm doing. When I'm cleaning out the free edge, I've got the skin free away from the curette so that I can see right where the hyponychium is at. And in this case, I'm pulling away the sides so I know right where my cuticle nipper blade is going to land. The rule I always tell you guys, just get what's white and waving at you. And I couldn't stress this more when it comes to a pedicure, because we've soaked so much and we've used that cuticle softener and we've used the towel to get rid of the debris and we've used the curette or the orange wood stick by this point. Most of the dead skin and the pterygium buildup, that sticky leftover cuticle, whatever we're calling it today, that most of it is just begging to come off by this point. And if not, when we go to buff it in a natural nail pedicure, it will. Get what's dead, get what's white and waving at you. Friendly reminder again, most people, over 50% of the people in America that are diabetic don't even know that they are. So being any kind of aggressive with the cuticles, quite frankly, can be dangerous. So we're going to be conservative. And if your client pressures you to do more, it's your job to educate them that that's out of your scope of practice. That you've learned how to keep them healthy, that there is a required thin layer of skin to keep infection out of their body, and that we are not licensed to go beyond that. So let's see, where are we at? Foot scrub. She really wanted you to see it snow, and we're going to watch the gratifying process. Of course, I like to go around the edge of the heel. I like to anchor their foot with my elbow. So in this instance, because of the height and having my pedicure booth built just how I need it, which highly recommend for you all, for your backs and your necks, please save yourselves. My elbow can go into that footrest perfect. I can rest their ankle into my hand, and this is no pressure on my back or my neck. This is very comfortable for me, and I have control of it. Remember, if the skin is looser, you're going to want to use your thumb and your hand that's in the rest to keep that skin really tight, so that you're not cutting them or getting into the flesh with your foot file. Beware of your angle always. Oftentimes, you might have to rinse that foot file and then pat it off on the towel. It's perfect if the foot is a little bit damp and if your paddle is barely damp. That's the perfect amount of friction, non friction to get these calluses removed. It's a lighter pressure that I would use down the side of the foot, but you can usually get into the ball of the foot with the same amount of aggression that you would with the heel, nearly. There's often corns on the side of the big toe, so that's worth going in with the 80 grit. You'll notice I try to do all of the 80 grit, the callus buildup first, rinse off as I go, and then I'll go back with the white side, which is more of a 180 grit to smooth it out. Consider it just like in the nail world, you're going to use your 100, 180 grit to perhaps file a acrylic enhancement. Then you're going to use your buffer to smooth it out all the more. In this instance, we're even going to use that exfoliating scrub in a little bit to smooth that skin out a little bit more. Check in with your client always if the pressure is okay. If the skin is starting to look really pink, you're getting close to the flesh. So stop. We never want to take a callus all the way off. That'll just make it come back all the quicker. And like I say, it'll just make them use your name like a swear word with every step they take. Don't do it. That callus is there because of a way that they walk, and or something that they're exposed to chemically, right? Chemically or mechanically, we're overusing something, so that callus builds up. Your paddle should look something like that. Very gratifying. Fresh towel, of course, because otherwise you're inviting them to a towel that is covered in dead skin, and that's gross. So I love these sugar cubes by V Beauty Pure. They're threatening to take them away, and that's pretty sad. But you can make your own sugar scrub. There's lovely sugar scrubs out on the market. Um, I haven't faced reality yet to start shopping for one, so I just bought 5 bags of these and I'm sort of hoarding them. This is lovely to smooth out the skin, like I said, all the more. Do get in between the toes. It's such a neglected area. And the older your client gets, it seems to be even more neglected, and dead skin builds up there. So, a little exfoliating sugar scrub with a light pressure in between the toes is lovely. Guide them back in the water. Let them know that you're coming into their space and you're going to rinse off the exfoliating scrub. I always tell them they don't have to help, otherwise, they're splashing all over the place. So I sort of hold their feet down and show them that I'm getting off the exfoliating scrub, just in case they didn't hear me. Make sure you have a dry towel out and tell them to take both out. Of course, when we're doing a gel, we're not going to do the polish now. We're going to thoroughly dry. Excuse me, not the polish now, but not the massage now. We are doing the gel polish now. So we're going to do the massage later so we don't get oils all over that plate before we try to put a gel anything on there. I like to dehydrate with those blue shop towel squares and acetone. And again, my rule, act like you're removing red polish. You're not going to use just one cotton ball or one square to get rid of that red polish. You're going to do this a couple times and you're going to make sure it is so dehydrated. You want to see that it is chalky and go through the motions thoroughly. each guy like you're moving red polish. I went through this a couple more times to just make sure she was so dehydrated, and we decided Rain needed to make an appearance. That's the Boston Terrier Rain. Hi, Rain. Thoroughly file slash etch the nail. I like to use a thinner, smaller file and or a 100/180 because remember I left a thin coat of that base coat there. So I can use that 180 with a light pressure. The books, again, students will always say if you're working on a nail, a natural nail, it should only be a 240 or higher. But again, I feel I'm more effective with a 180 with a light pressure, as opposed to having to overwork the nail plate with 240 or higher. Be thorough. I want it etched everywhere. If there's even one little shiny spot, you haven't done enough. Get back in there. Make sure it's etched, but again, not over filed. You shouldn't be burning them. I'm going to readjust my client as I need to so that I have full control of where that file lands and whatever motion I'm doing. Clients have a tendency to apologize when you readjust them. Let them know they're not doing anything wrong, that you're just moving their foot, and you might have to even with every single toe, just so that you have control of your task at hand and that you're keeping them safe. And they'll appreciate it. They'll start to trust you more. And when you move them with confidence and you hold their toe with confidence, they start to believe that you know what you're doing instead of going in with a shaky hand. And I'm sorry to giggle, but it's nervousing, it's exciting, it's all the things. I get why you get the jitters. Make sure you anchor yourself before you do the task, though. Anchor yourself, take that deep breath. I can't stress enough that to be successful in manicuring, you're going to have to be able to steady yourself, still yourself, and actually enjoy doing the same thing over and over and over again. You must love some aspect of that. It is a tedious craft, and again, that's part of what I love about it. The opportunity to do it a little better each time, or to be able to do something enough times that you can actually feel like you've mastered a task. That's very gratifying to me. I love that at the nail table, there's not really much surprises anymore, so it feels like problems I can solve. You're really transforming someone too. And you can really change someone's health, the way they walk and take literally every step, if you can help maintain their toenails at a safe level. Again, cut that hangnail out that's white and waving at you that feels like a sliver in their nail bed. Cutting the corners of a placatured nail before it's cutting into their flesh, it's huge, and it can really be rewarding for both sides, this craft. So try to find some pleasure in that repetitive, that transformation, and find your stillness in yourself, in your hands, in the task. Again, be super, super thorough. I like to use the rounded edge of my file to get in near the cuticle and make sure I'm getting rid of any of that thin skin that tends to grow out before I try to do any sort of gel application, because it simply will not hold if I don't. And it can be dangerous to have a gel polish that's half holding, half not, because it does adhere so well to the nail plate. The nail plate is thicker, therefore it's more porous. There's just more of a canvas slash surface for that gel polish to adhere to. So it's your responsibility to make sure that you are applying it carefully so that they don't have these little pockets where moisture is getting trapped and you're giving them a fungus, a mold, an infection, the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Oftentimes, after you use a file and or a buffer at the cleanup step, there's a couple more pieces of dead skin that start waving at you. Go back in and clean it up, get it out of the way, because for sure when you go to do that base coat, gel polish, or any one of the steps, it will just jump in there. That dead skin will somehow find its way into that gel application and create a little bump or an interference to your adhesion, and it's important you're thorough with that. So I love to use packing peanuts for my toe separators. You can buy them fresh before they've been put in any box, and or you can save them from packages. They're lovely, they're comfortable, they're biodegradable. If you need a little bit more of a toe separator, you can put two in there comfortably. We did not capture the base coat, but it's my own little creation. It is a top coat of your favorite brand, and then I put one drop of a really bright fuchsia in it and shake it up. It creates just a sheer pink that holds well. It's thin. It's just my favorite to use for Frenches. You've probably discovered by now if you use a thick cream base and then that super opaque white on top or any other covering cream uh, polish on top for the French tip, it has a tendency to get really thick and chunky easily. And a French should be clean, crisp lines. It should be sleek, or else it's just sloppy. So I encourage my clients to go with a thin base. When they want a cream, I tell them that it might make the French look thicker and not what I would recommend. Usually, they trust my opinion. And or they see what I mean, and then the next time we do a French, they usually then take my advice. So try to talk them into a thin something for the base with whatever French you're doing. Even with ombre, it's always going to blend easier if you can start with a thin, sheer, transparent something and then work the cream covering pigmented color into it. Um, I understand sometimes we just got to take the challenge and go for it, but this is always my recommendation so that your French doesn't get too thick. Um, and or I will say Chon Legends colors are so amazing that you can get really good coverage with one coat and it tends to still stay thin. So if you have a high quality, highly pigmented gel, you could get away with two cream colors for a French without it getting too chunky. So, really important to always clean up the gel before you cure it, as opposed to trying to peel it off your client afterwards. Please take time and responsibility with this. If you get gel on the skin, and look, a pro does it too, clean it up. All it takes is a little alcohol in a blue square and or alcohol in your orange wood stick or alcohol in a brush. Clean it up. Get it off your client's skin before you cure it onto it. I take this seriously, and at this point, I hope you all are too. You'll notice sometimes you have to make your own anchor in thin air with your pinky. You'll start to notice your fingers and hands as tools and kickstands. I have some alcohol on my orange wood stick and I'm removing whatever gel got on the skin. I love the V Beauty Pure lamp for pedicures. It comes without a bottom and the mouth of it is a little wider and the whole piece is a little taller, so it's just quite a bit easier to do over a foot on a footrest than my other lamps. Even though Chon Legend has really great coverage, I do like to just go over the French tip here and there, make sure it's consistent and nice, make sure I've capped the edges. Again, no shame in the game when you got to do some cleanup. Be responsible. Please don't wipe it off on your towels. Take a little blue shop towel and wipe it off on the square. You can have it set up right next to you or on your trolley rollabout. Also, you should be more professional than me and not use your fingernail tip to clean it up sometimes, but I swear I can't help it. This is where wearing gloves would be good because we can still be sanitary and protective of your own possibilities to contact dermatitis. If you were wearing gloves, you could just still use the free edge of your nail and clean up a little bit. Again, make sure you've capped the edges because that's always what wears off first. And so once that sort of sealant goes away, yeah, it's going to wear off a little quicker. So make sure you've capped the edges. And again, clean up anywhere where you might have a little gel on the fingertip. I know I just went against my own rule and wiped this off on the towel, but I'm switching over to pink towels. So I see my white towels as my on their way out. The Beauty Pure Chrome Bond because she's going to want a little chrome on here. And so far, V Beauty Pure's Chrome Bond, my absolute favorite for having consistent chrome application. It goes on super smooth. It lasts really well. I don't know what magic they put in this bottle, but I love their base coat. I love their top coat. I love their chrome bond. I've bought it in mass quantities. May I never run out. May they never take that away like they're threatening to take away my sugar cubes. Make sure you cap the free edge with this too, because again, that's where it's going to wear the fastest, and you'll notice it with chrome. The top coat will wear away, then the chrome will wear away, and then you'll see that stark cream pigmented orange under there instead of that nice chrome finish, and it just won't make the pedicure last as long as it should. So if you take care to cap the edges with this, the chrome it lasts so well. You're going to cure it for 30 seconds. Make sure not to overdo it. We are loving this chrome powder by Cocoist. All things Cocoist, please. And I got the following tool from Vetsy shop. Quite nice. I used to use eyeshadow brushes. I still do, or even those foam makeup applications, but I would have to cut them up, and if you didn't, it was pretty wasteful, so these are quite nice. Because it's so easy to spill your chrome powder, especially where a pedicure is concerned, I like to just do a quick little dabble and then quickly get the lid on my chrome and set it aside before I rub this in. And then just use that to varnish it in there. Make sure again to get that free edge. It's going to last so much longer when you do. Sometimes it happens naturally just because that little foam sponge really clings to all sides of the nail so easily. But with that big toe, make sure you've gotten the free edge thoroughly. Repeat that process. Just sort of quick application here. Set your valued chrome powder aside. Take the time to put the lid on and shimmy that on in there with your sponge. Make sure you get the sides and the free edge. Make sure you get up to the cuticle. You can be a little bit messy with this step because you're going to take a big fluffy brush and or one of those makeup triangle sponges to remove any of that chrome powder away. Any of the excess before you put the top coat on. Otherwise, you kind of get this weird buildup in the proximal nail folds where the excess powder and top coat meet. And you don't want a bunch of excess powder in your top coat either. In fact, I'd recommend dedicating one of your top coats to when you do use chrome powders and or when you go over a super glittery top coat, excuse me, a glittery gel, or you're adding a glitter. It's just nice to have one top coat dedicated to those things so that when you do go to use your top coat on a cream color and or a French, you can be sure that you don't have little teeny particles of glitter in it or chrome that's going to look like a mistake in your French or your cream polish. You want that perfect glossy finish. This top coat is amazing. I have a crush on it. Again, make sure that you're getting the gel off of the skin before you cure. Be better than me and either wear gloves to remove that or use an orange wood stick. Make sure to use your thumb and fingers to pull away the proximal nail folds so that you can be controlled with your top coat. Do not start flooding at this step. It's just as important as any of the others. If you get this top coat on the skin, take the time to get it off of there, down by the cuticle, the sides, or the free edge, because that's just going to create a spot for it to lift. The top coat or any of the gel layers can't adhere to the skin. It's going to peel away from it eventually. And so now you've created a perfect pocket for trapped moisture and infection. So be responsible and controlled with this. It is a generous layer, but be controlled with it. If you flood it, it is better to take a square and get alcohol on it, wipe it clean, and start over. The nice thing with gel is they're completely dry now. You can remove the toe separators. I like to put on cuticle oil at this point. Make sure your applicator is not touching the skin. I just use the dropper. Again, all things cocoas. All three of these flavors are amazing. There's freesia, jasmine, white tea, and they're all my favorite. I like to rub the cuticle oil in. It's super nourishing. There's jojoba in it, almond oil in it. Again, the smell is incredible. And if you were going to be doing a paraffin, this would be when you would do it. If you were going to be doing a massage with lotion, this is when you're going to do it. I love that hemp's original formula. I have not had one person complain about the smell of it. When I veer, some people like it, some people don't. I also don't like that most of their scented ones usually have a little bit of artificial coloring in it. I can see it on my hands, but the original formula, I love it. It has a great slip to it. It lasts throughout the whole massage usually. Remember to keep contact with your hand if you do need to reapply lotion. I've noticed that if you take away your hand in this step, sometimes they even put their foot back in the water. Um, keep contact with their hand, your hand with their foot. This is that motion where I like to use my knuckles to work up the bottom of the foot. Check in with the client that the pressure is good. It tends to be a nice break for your hands in the day. And pull up on each individual toe. If it was just a basic pedicure, I'm doing this 3 times. If we're trying to do a spa pedicure, I might be doing this slower and more, like 7 times for each motion to make the massage last longer. Check in with the client about this too. Not every client will let you pull their toes back and forward. Most love it. This has a lot to do with how much they can relax in your chair or not, or in general. But it can be really relieving for most people. I do sort of a pulling, sort of a kneading, working up the calf again. And I like to, again, as you all know, sort of pull all that tension and energy out and throw it away. She doesn't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. Beautiful orange French classic summer pedicure manicure.